If you go check us out at FromTheShadowsPodcast.com and have a story or an experience that you want to tell me about, or even come on the show and share, hit the contact button, send me an email. And while you're there, you can check out links to all of our social media. Hang around, join in the fun. And if you want to get extra episodes or get episodes early and commercial free, check out our YouTube and Patreon pages. There's membership options there that allow you to support the channel and get all that extra stuff. And keep an eye on the store. We have a cool new Temple Road 5K run shirt that should be coming out pretty soon to commemorate the judge's Dogman story from his youth. And I will not say that it is the judge in the picture, but it is the judge in the picture. Just saying. But that being said, everybody knows that I am a sucker for an Ohio story, but I'm also a sucker for a North Carolina story or stories from the Mount Airy area, because we had a run of some really cool stories. And this gentleman that we're going to bring on, he's got some stories from that area too. He couldn't resist reaching out and let me know that he wanted to come on and share them. So, David, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast.
Thanks a lot, Shane. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing. I will be doing much better though once I get to hear you tell some of these stories that I've read about.
Right,
that you've sent me an email for them. So I'm eager to hear them. I know from our talking beforehand, I know you're very articulate and can tell a good story. So I'm hoping.
Well, I appreciate you. So thank you for that. I've been called that before. Been called a lot, but not that. That's awesome. Yeah, when I started seeing so many people like from Surrey County, I was like, man, I got to throw in, because, well, I'm from the coal fields of West Virginia originally. I'm from McDowell County originally. And I moved to Allegheny County, North Carolina when I was 9. And so I grew up in North Carolina down here in the western part of North Carolina in their mountains, and wound up going to community college over in Dobson in Surrey County, and even working in the middle of town in downtown Mount Airy. My stepdad was a substance abuse counselor. He owned and operated a place called Delphi Counseling for years, right in the middle of Mount Airy. So knew a lot of people down there. Used to see the Andy Griffith car right out front all the time. And when so many people kept writing you about that, I was like, dude, I got to throw in, because I know some weird stuff from around there. But it's a strange little town. They used to call it Little Chicago, I think, is what I used to hear. Kind of a rough and tumble area. Mm-hmm. You know something? You were mentioning about the gravel pits and or just the granite. So Mount Airy is known as Granite City. Matter of fact, used a place called Granite City Sounds, just do stereo stuff there. I had them do a Jeep for me one time. So as you go out of Mount Airy, there's the next town, there's Flat Rock, and there's just there's a big industry in doing headstones for people, monuments, and gravel. And so there's a huge line. I guess it's granite. There's huge granite deposits down through there. So there's something to do with the weird phenomena. The granite has something to do with I don't know what, but that's a component of some of this. David Pilatus talks about the missing 411, in Boulder Fields. Same deal, water and granite. So
I think those things together,
are
very
something.
They're very. I think they're conductive.
That's what I think. Yeah,
and I think when you get that, in addition to an area that might already be charged electrically from paranormal activity, it heightens it. And look, before anybody gets on and says, "Hey, you guys are idiots," we know we're idiots, but we're just
Hey, this is true spec, man.
yeah. We're
I watched Rogan and Diane Pasolka do it for 3 hours today. So if they can do it, we can too.
Yeah. So I think that there's something to that, because a lot of the most recent Dogman eyewitnesses that we've had here in Ohio and other places have been in close proximity to gravel pits.
That's why I brought this up.
Yeah.
I've never seen a dog man. I've had a lot of it. I'm like, man, really? Dog man, really? Come on. But as it turns out, they've been dog-headed people all through history, just like there have been hairy men all through history.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is nothing new. It's strange to me, the number of sightings. Are there as many Sasquatch sightings, or is there? I know that Dogman's like the new. It's like he's like Madonna, and Cher took a back seat or something.
I've never heard anybody compare Dogman to Madonna and shit.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say is I think that people are feeling more comfortable about coming forward with their Dogman sightings, because a lot of
I think there's a lot of monsters out there, probably.
Well, yeah, but I think like a lot of the sightings we get here in Ohio are old ones. It's not like they're current ones.
Well, now I heard something today too about those dire wolves that the dire wolves that they
have released or tried to.
Yeah, well, they made 3 of them.
Yeah,
apparently 2 males and a female. Now that's what they've admitted to doing. They found a carcass of one on Skinwalker Ranch. Okay, so that's proof that of a 4th anomalous dire wolf out here floating around. They say they have a mane like a lion, the dire wolves, and they didn't know that until the pups grew up and presented this feature. So that's something that people keep saying that they see on the Dogman is the mane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that struck out to me when I heard that about the dire wolves having them. Utah's a long way away from Ohio, but liminal places, I don't think it really matters. It's all, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into some of the stuff that you experienced and have witnessed in growing up in that area.
Well, I'd say the closest weird thing, I'll tell you 2 right quick, as far as like, I know that I've had encounters with Bigfoot over the years. When I was, in 1998, I would have been going to school down at Surrey, commuting from Allegheny. I worked for a company up in Sparta called NAPCO. When they were like the finishing end of the printing industry, so we did we used to do game boards. We made more Monopoly games, and you could millions of them in Sparta. So I worked for them for 17 years, and I got a degree in graphic arts while working for them, just working full time, going to school full time, and just back then I had more drive at 20. It was crazy. I never could do all that I was doing back then. Like, again, it's crazy to think. But anyway, I would commute back and forth, and at the top of 89 Mountain, which is where you go into Virginia from Surrey County, and you can take a left and it goes up 18 and on into Allegheny County, Sparta, where I'm from. In 98 or so, my best friend, still my best friend since 9th grade, he would do the same thing, commute back and forth to work in Mount Airy, and he lives right at the top of the mountain in Allegheny. One night he was coming home, and when he got to the top of the mountain, there were like 2 or 3 cars stopped, and I think he got out and to see what was going on, and somebody said that a Bigfoot had just run across the road in front of them. So this is right where the Eastern Continental Divide runs.
Okay.
It runs right along right with Blue Ridge Parkway too. So that ridge runs right with Parkway on into Virginia, and it crossed 89 and went up the bank, and these cars were just stopped dumbfounded, and he pulled up on this, Now, he didn't see it, but these people swear that that's what it was. Now, in 98, I didn't necessarily believe. I thought it was just, this crazy. But I remember reading in Allegheny News, I remember Dad having the newspapers there that had something about Bigfoot tracks being found in Allegheny County around about the same time, and maybe even a sighting. And I've tried to find that stuff on the Allegheny News, like their archives. I haven't been able to find it online. I guess it's probably something that's not digitized. Yeah, maybe. But so that's pretty close to Mount Airy. 89 runs down into the town of Mount Airy, and I lived in Mount Airy also for a long time, and just used to go to Boy Scout camp and Skull Camp, which is right there off of 89 as well. And before you get to the top of the mountain, and I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything too weird. They've got these bald mountains there. That's what the Camp Raven Knob is. I know there's. I bet I was thinking the other day these bird populations. Like I'd never seen a bald eagle. I'd never seen a bald eagle until last year.
Oh yeah.
And so to see the eagles are returning in a lot of places. These raptor birds, it's kind of what I was thinking about. They will they'll nest on these bald mountains like Raven Knob, and of course you got Pilot Mountain, which is also one of the bald mountains. It's in Surrey County. And I don't know. The Thunderbird thing has always interested me. It wouldn't take much for a bird to get big enough to swoop down, snatch a toddler or something.
Oh no! Some of those eagles that we have around here, you see them out in the field, and you're like,
"Oh, now these bald eagles."
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah. They've made a big comeback in Ohio.
Yeah. So I'd never seen one. And I'm 48. Let's see. I guess it was last summer. It was right after Trump won the election, and that's when I seen it, because I was walking over to West Park, which is where our doctor's offices are here, and where our Greenway Trail actually walks up there. That's where where the headway is, where the trailhead is. And so I'm walking off the trail to go to the doctor, and I see this. You can't mistake it because of the white head. And I knew exactly what it was. And in the sun that morning, it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I seen this. I was like, damn, that was a bald eagle. And I just was like, man, I looked around. I was like, I just half expected Donald Trump to come walking out and shake my hand or something. I started laughing to myself. It's kind of funny, Aside, I voted this time for the first time in like 18 years. Through faults of my own, lost my right to vote, but I got them back this year, funny enough, and voted. So it's kind of an interesting time in the last year. So a lot of synchronicities, a lot of things coming to fruition, coming full circle. Because I believe that everything in this life will come full circle, and I've seen it come in threes a lot. I don't know. Things always seem to happen in threes. When my dad passed last autumn, my eldest friend that I'd known down here passed away the week after he passed. And I had a neighbor pass the third week of August. And I mean, a close neighbor. So 3 people right there together. Very crazy. And then no more death. So it was a little hairy last year, but we're doing better with it. But anyway, the thing with Bigfoot, so when I'm going to school up at Appalachian, I'm trying to think what year this would be, maybe 2000, 2001. I can tell you exactly when it was. I had bought and ordered me a set of pearl drums from a musician's friend and had them shipped to NAPCO, and they had arrived that day by LTL, and I was tickled to death. I finally had enough money to go buy me a set of drums and had a place where I could play them where somebody wouldn't raise Cain about it. And so I was so happy. I took them straight to my mom's, and she let me set them up in the basement, and I beat on them until I was tired of them, and then left. And she was cool like that. My mom always been supportive of music in me and everything. So the drums came that day. And then I got home, and my best friend from school called me from Boone, and him and two of our classmates that we graduated with were going to go camping up in this is Grandfather Mountain. And we were kind of partaking upon some things that evening. I was already had started feeling okay, and my friends were already feeling okay. And anyway, my buddy Solomon got on the phone, and he says, "All right, man," he said, "I'm going to give you some directions to this place." And I'd never been to where they were going camping. And I was in Surrey County, and they were already up in Boone. Okay. And my buddy Solomon, he kept saying, "No, don't freak out, Dave. Don't freak out. Just keep going." And I followed his directions to a T that night. 5 counties: Surrey County, Wilkes County, Ashe County, Watauga County. And it's at a crossroads right when you pass Grandfather Mountain, you go into Airy County. And as soon as you go into Airy, if you take a left, the very first left, you'll go across the Blue Ridge Parkway, and it makes a crossroads right there. And I didn't know that was there until I got there that night and pulled up on Crossroads. Robert Johnson, the Crossroads.
Yeah.
So I'm tripping and everything, and this is all very highly profound to me. So anyway, just kind of setting the atmosphere for. So I drove on down. You have to drive down into the. They were camping in what's called the gorge, right below. It's the bottom of Grandfather Mountain. So I don't know how high it is exactly in elevation, but it's pretty high up. And so if you drive straight down into the bottom of the gorge, it takes about 20, 25 minutes. It's a gravel road. It twists and turns. Takes a little bit to get there, but then you'll come into like a bottom type area, and there's trout streams. Trout fishing is supposed to be unreal up there. And I don't remember seeing other people camped, because I drove straight to where they were at and stopped and got out. I seen my buddies' Blazer sitting there, never skipped a beat, never got turned around, drove straight to their campsite and jumped out and, hollered and it was just pretty magical, just funny how the great magnet can pull you in different directions. And sometimes you don't even feel like you're in control of this thing. So we hung out, all of us, there's 4 of us, played drums around the fire, just hanging out, having a good time. And I remember we were all 4 playing drums, pretty, just pretty into it, pretty loud. And we all stopped at at the same time, and it got deathly still. And you could hear a pin drop. And at that very moment, something laughed at us, Shane. I don't know what it was, but it had the lung capacity of it would have had the lungs the size of a whiskey barrel. And we could feel this. It sounded like the closest approximation I could say is it sounded like the Wicked Witch of the West, but with more decibel, more volume, more power. It was like it laughed at us, like it was enjoying the music, enjoying the drums, because we were raising hell, yeah, we were raising hell. And then nothing else. We didn't hear it leave. We didn't hear movement, but it sounded like it was just in the tree line. The little area we were camping in would have been a mowed area, like a little pasture area, probably no bigger than a 1 square acre, maybe. And then just in the tree line, it sounded like it was. And I looked at, we all four looked at each other and were like, what the hell? This is like 2000, you know. It was in October, I think, 2000, pretty sure. So nobody's doing Bigfoot back then, you know, but that was where my mind went first, automatic. I never once thought it was anything else but that. I've been in the woods all my life. I've never heard anything like that.
So never even, like, you guys never thought, oh, that's got to be
No.
somebody messing with us. Like,
Well, that's what they said. And that's how I think Solomon and Brian wrote it off as that it was campfire games. No. And me and Nolly, we were just looking at each other and we're like, no, babe, I don't think so. I mean, because you could feel it, man. I can't scream like that. And I sang in bands. And I used to growl and stuff in metal bands. You can't do that. I can't even do that with a microphone. Maybe, I mean, I've been to so many concerts, I can't even remember. I can't even begin to tell you. And I've never felt nothing do that in my chest except for a kick drum, not somebody's voice. Yeah. So, you know, I knew that whatever it was pretty powerful, you know, just from going to see live music and stuff, because that's the only other time I felt that kind of thing in my chest was a kick drum, you know, PA or something like that being right up on the speakers. So that opened my mind to the fact that, okay, prior to me hearing this, I would have let, you know, Bigfoot, yeah, right. That's the last thing I was thinking of back in those days anyway. But it opened my mind to it then. And I don't think I hadn't had any more encounters with it until just since I moved here to Wilkes and started having these encounters on our greenway. I had 3, the one I told you about earlier, and then 2 other occasions. And this is on our greenway over here where people walk with their babies and strollers during the day, you know. But at night, nobody's supposed to be on it, you know. I think most towns are set up that way. And my mind started clicking like the last encounter I had, I knew something weird had happened, and I was pretty sure that's what it was. But then since it happened, I have learned enough things that it's like it was my own confirmation bias. So it just confirmed for me that what had happened on the 2 other occasions that I was down there, you know, after dark, and some, you know, 2 other times I had rocks thrown into the Reddy's River over here, and after dark, and I hit my light and nothing's there. And I'm full expecting to see a deer has just jumped in the river on me. I'm sitting on a riverbank, you know, just watching my phone after dark, and it really need, you know, I had really no excuse to be down there, but I had no excuse not to be there either. Let's just leave it at that. I was in a sticky situation for a little while where I was having to live a little rough and stealth camp a little here and there, you know. Just pick up after yourself is all I ask people. You know, do what you will, pick up after yourself. But that happened to me 2 different times, 2 random nights, completely like a week. No, this was like a year, maybe a year and some change apart from the first time to the second time. But it happened 2 different times in the same spot along the Reddy's River, which is where I was maybe a half mile from where it dumps into the Yadkin River on our greenway over here in Wilkes. And the Yadkin River is what separates North Wilkesboro from Wilkesboro. That's our delineating line, you know. So I live in the town of Wilkesboro. I can walk down and go past the main street where they have music and stuff and drop off onto the trail. And it goes down the ridge, and then it goes across a big bridge that they have built. You can cross the river by foot and get over North Wilkesboro onto the other parts of the trail. And where this happened at, and where West Park, our doctor's offices are. A friend of mine sent me a newspaper article that was talking about that people had found remains of a carcass of a dead dog shoved up in a tree down there.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were like, and so I think they thought it was ritualistic or satanic people or something like that. And I was like, no, that's Bigfoot, man. And I'm pretty sure that sounds like Bigfoot behavior, or if nothing else, big cat behavior. Because I've seen 2 mountain lions. I saw 2 at the same time in Grayson County, Virginia once. I don't know that they were, I think they were both brown, regular color, but it was after dark. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But
now, how big were the rocks? Do you know that got thrown?
I mean, like, dude, it ain't no pebbles. Whatever it was going kadoosh in the water. So I mean, like, it's making a belly flop cannonball type sound. Like if I cannonballed, I thought a deer had jumped in the water on me. That's what I fully expected when I hit my light to see a deer or a fish or something flopping in the air. It was not that, because I would have heard it's a different trajectory. When a fish jumps, I thought about that. Like I've tried to debunk this. I thought, well, maybe I'm sitting there, the light from my phone, got a fish a little
excited.
Yeah. So it's just not crazy. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But that's not what it was. There's beaver and there's otters on there too, but I've never seen it. It was not a tail. It was not beaver tail. That's a different sound. That's a slap. This was something like a caduceus. And all along the far side, the far bank, across the river from me, are these huge boulders. About, I'd say they're 10-pound a piece, like what you would use for, say you were building a road and you needed to fill in ruts, like big pieces of rock, and then you put crush and run on top of it. So it's just that bigger stuff, It was we had a big flood during Helene. I'll send you pictures of how bad it was. I've got a picture of me on that bridge that crosses the Yadkin, and I've never seen it like it was during Helene, and that was after 2 days of it already having subsided. But yeah, it got crazy here.
Now,
not as bad as it did in other places, but yeah.
Now, did you get up and take off on these rocks?
Yeah, both times, man, immediately. Yeah, because it not only just freaked me out, weirded me out, but at that time I did not think Bigfoot. Either time, I thought I just figured it was a critter or somebody, because it wouldn't be beyond the realm possibility for some street person to be down there either. That's possible.
And throw a 10-pound rock at you.
I mean, maybe it's trying to work one out. I don't know.
but I mean, the more
it happened the second time, though. The first time it was, I wrote it off as a definite fluke. The second time it happened, I was like, man, that's definitely weird that's happened twice in the same spot like that. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't see where anything would have been denned up, but the way the river does cut right there, which this is the Reddies. It's a stock trout stream that dumps into the Yadkin just on down from where this is. There's places where you could get and hide. Yeah, and places right through there.
And here's the thing: is the more than you hear eyewitness accounts, this is the MO.
Yeah, see, and I didn't know that.
That's the MO.
I've learned that. It kind of put me on the path of learning a lot more about it. Yeah, I didn't know about as much as it was as prevalent. And then when I thought back about it happening twice, the last encounter made a lot more sense. So the last time I've never slept outside again since this happened. And I used not be scared to sleep anywhere hardly. I had to for a while. I mean, it's amazing what you get used to. But so the last time I was down right where the Reddies does empty into the yak, and it makes a little like a little cubby. It's a corner pocket, and there's a bench right there. And so I had just signed the papers on my apartment that I live in now, and got my housing squared away. And I come home that night, and I didn't have key to the outside door, and they wouldn't let. I couldn't get nobody up to open it, so I just left, and I went to the where I'm talking about on our greenway, and it was nice. It was a full moon, and I said I'll just sleep out under the stars tonight. It's November. It would have been right after Halloween. This would have been the 1st of November, and so I sat there all night till about 4:30, watching videos and stuff on YouTube on my phone. And as a matter of fact, I had watched a podcast. Stacey Brown was on Eli on Eli's podcast, Cryptic Campfire, and I like Stacey. I've always thought a lot of Stacey Brown, and I always thought that thermal footage that his dad got is some of the best Bigfoot evidence there is. Pretty wild. He just seems like a good dude.
Yes,
like after my own heart. But
yeah, Stacy's all right. Just depends on which day you catch him.
Well, I mean, here I am listening to him though, of all people, and I turn my phone off, and a Bigfoot shows up. Or only thing that I can assume was a Bigfoot. I did not see it, and I didn't hear it. I didn't smell it. I can't tell you why. I've never felt this way before. It's like what everybody talks about. It describes when they say they get the fear or that they've been zapped with fear. It total felt like something was projecting fear onto me. It was not my own fear, for it was not rational. I did not, I had not heard anything, smelled anything. There was nothing that would have alerted me that there was anything coming.
Mm-hmm.
But something told me that there was a predator coming, and fight or flight, and I got the hell out of there. And I move at a pretty good clip. It's nothing for me to walk 10, 15 miles in a day. I had some heart disease, so I started walking and building up my building up my cardio and stuff after I had those heart attacks a few years back. And so I got I'm in pretty good shape nowadays, actually. Probably best shape I've ever been in as far as being able having the endurance and the speed to walk and So I cut and run, and I'm moving at a pretty good clip, but it's probably 3/4 of a mile from where I was sitting to get back to West Park, which is a lit up parking area where you might flag down somebody, to help you if you were in trouble. The whole time I'm walking out, I could hear whistles on either side of me. It's almost like it's like what we would call a quail. They're not out at night. They don't whistle. They don't sound at night. And to have it on either side of me was weird. And I could swear to you, by the time I got to where you could see the parking lot lights, I could hear the footfalls of whatever this thing was on the pavement of our Greenway Trail. Now, I think it's pretty, this is not the first time I've heard of people having encounters on their, whatever town they live in, on the Greenway Trail. And at first, I thought, whatever. But when it happened to me, and I could look back at all this as being like a cumulative thing, it started having more weight and being a lot more compelling, especially when you can take into consideration what I was telling you about the crops. And how they
Yeah.
use all those bottoms along the Yadkin River to grow cabbage and corn every year. We get 2 crops a growing season, and they grow green cabbage, red cabbage. That red cabbage $5. Heck, I'd probably looking for some cabbage down there. I'd say there's all kinds of things making meals out there. It's not out of the realm of possibility for these things to be coming through there to eat cabbages. I would. I mean, that would be that'd be worth traveling for. And
it's probably good. Like, I can't imagine. So if what we think Bigfoot behavior is, like if you're eating, raw deer meat and stuff that sounds kind of disgusting.
I don't understand why they don't know how to use fire. I don't know.
but eating like some of that cabbage would probably be like a real delicacy.
That's exactly. Because it would be for us.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And they grow that nice red cabbage out down here too. I mean, like the green's great. I mean, but red cabbage is even, hey.
But the whistling though is what really gets me is.
Oh yeah.
Look, there's only so many things that can whistle.
Well, yeah, and I've never heard too many birds of the night. Whippoorwill, what you might call a loon. They go who, or it's not and there might even be owls sometimes, but somebody said they called it a loon. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what a loon is. Yeah. But I don't think they sound like a.
Not like a quail, not like a bobwhite. I heard that one other time in an encounter story about dude or something about that's what it was doing. It was whistling like a bobwhite.
Yeah, I've heard there's a lot of reports of Bigfoot whistling. And it's almost like them signaling to other, like whatever they're signaling, like, hey, they're coming your way.
Like it was messing with me.
Well, there's probably 2 of them.
I guess, man, it would have had to have been. Yeah. But you couldn't hear it, though. Here's what's crazy. I couldn't hear it moving from one side to the other. And dude, it was almost like this thing was right parallel with me, right by my face when it would do it. Like I said, I had to sleep outside for a couple of years, getting myself straightened out and whatnot. And I never had any issues. When I was in Boone, the first night I was up there, I think I heard something take down a deer. Like I heard something kill a deer. Now I couldn't tell you what it was that did it necessarily, but like a deer makes that bleating noise.
Mm-hmm.
Or a young deer bleats, whatever it was had run itself to the point that it was breathing. It was about to die. Like a dog will run. It could have been a dog. They'll run a deer till they die, till their lungs burst. And that's what this one sounded like. And then whatever it was killed it. And it was like a scream, like a little bleat scream. And that was it. Nothing. And that was the first night I was up there. But I never heard anything else up that way.
But I was going to say, what I was going to say though is knowing that you have spent a considerable amount of time out in the woods, out on those trails, and sleeping out there.
Yeah,
to have never had that feeling come over you.
No, this was the first time that I'd ever felt anything that fear like that. I mean, I didn't even feel like this when I saw those mountain lions because I knew what they were.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different thing to be facing a monster. Now I was pretty scared when. Let me tell you about that one. So this happened in Grayson County, Virginia. It's just at Galax, Virginia, outside of Galax, between Galax and Independence. I used to own a house off of Riverside Drive. It's kind of going between, if people know anything about that area, like you're going to Elk Creek, and there's it's a trout stream cut to the right, and it's called Clydo Creek. And a lot of people call it Clito, but it's called Clito, Clito Creek. But it's a beautiful place. It's my favorite place in the world that I've seen so far. And it's just very close. And it was always very close to home. You know, I found that profound that I could go over there and sit and get my head right. You know, that was always my place. And I used to like to go over there and trout fish for a week at a time and just camp and trout fish. And they stock it. The stocking trucks come through and stock trout. There's the system as you get back in there. This thing dumps into the new river. Okay, but the system as you get back into it has an upper set of falls, and then there's a lower set of falls, and all in between are these amazing rock formations, and like places where the water has carved out these incredible, you know, they're perfect circles where the I guess they call it like these water typhoons where it carves out these places in the rock. It's just amazing, beautiful place. I recommend anybody go over and check this spot out. So I've been over there for a week and a half maybe, and I was needing to get away. I was needing to find a ride, finally get away from there, you know, go back to civilization. And this is a place where you can't really get cell phone signal at all. So across from where I was camping, you can take this road and it'll take you to the top of the mountain where there are some old cabins, I assume are rental cabins. Maybe I assume people rent them out maybe for the weekend or something. Or maybe people come and stay there, you know, just stay there part time. I don't think somebody stays at this one place much regular. I think it's more like a weekend rental to different people. So what I'm getting at, I don't think there's any one person coming around there much. So I get to the top of the road. It's a pretty good walk from where I'm at this point. And but you're on top of the mountain once you get up there. And I seen something slink through the gate, and this thing's gated off this cabin. And so I walked on up through there. And I'm trying to get a cell phone signal. And I'm looking at the phone, not paying attention to about half of what I'm doing. I got my headlamp on. I don't have a gun or nothing. Convicted felon, I can't carry one. So I got a knife. You know, what am I going to do with that? And I walk up in this yard of this place, and I see this thing. I remember watching it because I didn't realize what I was looking at to begin with. It was dark. There was like a from dusk till dawn light on. So the light was on, but that don't always cast the greatest light to know, see like what color something is. You can, you know, in the shadows at night, I couldn't really tell, but I knew it wasn't a deer. And then I seen the tail on it. And I was like, oh shit. And it walked up like this place, they keep it mowed real nice. And, you know, but then there's a bunch of tall grass off to the left where it's not kept trimmed. And so this thing slinked up the side, and I watched it, how it would slink just like a cat. It moved just like a cat. And then I seen the tail, and I knew. And it entered the tall grass. And I walked on up, and I looked over, and I saw two sets of green eyes sitting about, oh man, dude, this grass is probably up to my chest, 4.5 foot off the ground, just like a cat would if it sat on its butt, you know, with its paws up front. That's how they were sitting. But both sets of them eyes transfixed on me, buddy, and they did not move. Now, still, I've never seen anything like that. Now, I've seen all manner of creatures out in the woods, even deer. All of them will sit still like that for a little bit, but not most. Most of them will just cut and run. Deer, cut and run. Most everything will cut and run. This thing stood and watched me. Both of them did. And they say that mountain lions don't generally hang out, like they get together and mate, you know, like, and that's about it. And then go their separate ways. But I don't know if this was a male and female. I don't think they were black. I think they're just regular mountain lions, and that this was a place where the resources were so great that they couldn't help but be there. And at the time of year, it's in the spring, it could have been females denned up there. It looks like a den. This place, there's like a big rock formation, right past where the eyes were. I've been up there since this happened and looked, and it looks like a place where something might dig a den out from underneath, especially if something was already, if it was a hole cut out there or something. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But when I finally kind of like it all dawned on me, like, yeah, dumbass, you might want to get out of here. I turned around and got through the gate and Steve's my way through there. And when I hit the road part, I ran as far. And I know that's stupid but I mean, I've been over there for a week and a half. These things, if they wanted me,
they'd have had you.
They'd have had me, man. Yeah.
So, let me ask you this, because I have heard some like people talk about Dogman sightings having green eyes. Yeah. So what do you think the possibility might be that they're in a place?
Sure these were two mountain lions.
No. Well, no. What I'm going to say is, what do you think the possibility is that people are misidentifying?
I think it happens a lot. Yeah, with eye shine and stuff, I think it happens a lot. Yeah, because it's creepy. But I will say this though too: the eye shine now I can't speak for Dogman, but what I have seen thrown out for evidence for eye shine of a booger has more of a round eye. Seems to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
And they're very far apart.
Right. These weren't so much like that. It looked like two cats sitting on the butt and with green cat eyes.
And there's no mistaken, like, so I saw a cat. So
I'm pretty dang short. Like, yeah.
So
before I realized that, I mean, I watched the thing walk up the side of the tall grass. It just slinked up the grass and then eased into it. I've never seen anything move like that. And I'm like, what am I watching? Or before I even realized what I was looking at, had walked on up in there and saw the eyes. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the tail and all of it, I'm like, yeah, okay. Because all my life I've been taught that there are none here.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to say is we've had people on before from the Virginia area that, they're like, they're not supposed to be any panthers or mountain lions or anything like that. And it's like, yeah, they're like Merkel just had a video of a black panther. And somebody
was talking about it.
Yeah. And somebody just messaged me and they had just seen a black panther.
I think the jaguar ranges a lot farther north than they want to admit to. And whether they want to admit to a breeding population in Appalachia, they're here and in the Ozarks.
Oh,
the resources are too plentiful.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it at all.
Especially like where I'm talking about, where they stock at. I mean, it's crazy because people, and they stock it, I don't know, several times a week because of the traffic of fishermen. There's a lot of people go over there to fish where I'm talking about from the area. So it gets stocked extra heavy. It's like they got a tuna. It's almost like having, what's the can of tuna? I can't remember.
Starkest.
Starkest.
They got the Starkest factory sitting there where they are.
Starkest factory right there. That's exactly what I thought. And let me tell you, so the last part of the story with the lions, so when I get down to the bottom where I had started at the bottom, I walk up the lower falls, out the upper falls, and I'm going to just walk on out and try to walk back to civilization and just hike back home. So I get my gear and I'm just walking out. It's almost daylight. It's right about 5:30. And as this road, Clydagh Road, it goes into a huge, like what we call kiss your ass curve, and like almost makes a complete circle. Um, at the end of the gravel before it hits the hardtop, at the end of this road, there's this boulder. It sits on the right. If you're going into it, it's on the right. If it's on the left, if you're coming out, it's a boulder the size of a camper, like completely round. These people have
Jeez.
a water line run over top of it down to the creek to, I guess, to run water to a camper or something. So anybody from the area will know what I'm talking about because of the water line that goes over top of this boulder. That's how big this rock is. So those eyes were on top of that boulder as I go to walk out of this place. One set sitting there, and I go and walk out, and I mean the eyes never move, and I have to go through that kiss your ass curve, and they never move, and I'm going around a curve, and it's like the eyes never move, but yet they never take their eyes off of you. It's the creepiest feeling I've ever seen. It give me the heebie-jeebies.
So okay,
But that did scare me, like that last thing over here.
so that's what I was going to ask. Did
No, because I know
knowing
what that is.
knowing there's two cats right there and
They
another
got
one watching,
Starkiss back here.
but versus getting basically walked out by something you don't know what it is,
Yeah,
which is more terrifying.
that was. Yeah,
Getting walked.
I don't know why. It may be just. Yeah, what I don't. I can't explain. It's so crazy. I didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, didn't smell anything. There was nothing that alerted me to fear, but I knew something was coming. And yeah, I always thought Stacy was talking about during his podcast. He was talking about he would talk about the hymn to Pan, reciting the hymn to Pan. And I know you've probably seen that in one of his Skunk Ape
Yeah.
movies. Yeah, okay. So he's kind of like talking about that movie, I guess, and what they were doing during that movie. And it's just very strange, man, that, my stepdad always used the PAN, PAN, for the password on all the computers. He was always a tech geek back during the day when it wasn't cool to be one. He had laptops from the beginning, and all the computers at home growing up, always password was always PAN. And I never asked him quite why he did that, but I just knew. I knew who Pan was. I knew about the Greek god Pan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot more to some of that if you dig a little deeper.
So
that's pretty wild.
So okay, so in your, you've made it around, quite a bit in that area, and you spent a lot of time outside. Did you ever see anything in the skies that you couldn't explain?
Well, not in the sky, but okay. So my mom and my stepfather owned a house in Fancy Gap, which is up 52 from Mount Airy.
I've seen that on the highway as I've driven.
Okay, yes, right there on 77.
Yep,
it's at in 52. There's a junction right there at the exit. So they lived on top of what's known as Dogwood Mountain, which if you get off 77 on the 52, you come down the mountain to Mount Airy. Dogwood Mountain's it's the last mountain before you hit flat land. And they bought a house up there, killer house. Man, it was such a cool place, Shane. Back in the 50s, this was like a resort area. And they had homeowners, I don't know, I guess it was cool. They had like a pool house and a big pool area. Yeah, they had like a clubhouse type place.
I got you.
But now, by the time they bought their house up there, this was in ruins. It was just ruins now. Yeah, totally trashed. But back in the 50s, it was like one of those chic, cool hangouts. Whoever it was that designed houses for the mountains and said they should have sliding glass doors. that don't work. As a beach, that's for beach houses. But they come to the mountains, and I've seen it in Sparta. I've seen it on their house. It was all the front of the house had sliding glass doors because it's built right on the side of Dogwood Mountain. And so the house had 3 levels of decks on it, and you could sit back there. I could watch fireworks in about 6 or 7 places. I could see them in Pilot Mountain, Mount Airy, Ararat, as far as Winston-Salem. Yeah. On a clear night. Yeah. So we could see forever. I mean, it's crazy. So eventually I get to run with some of the local people in what's known as Cana area. If you go down to the bottom of the mountain, that's Cana. And just to give you an idea of where we sat as far as how up we were, the snow line hit halfway down our driveway. So it might be 2 foot of snow at the house. And if you come down about, I don't know, 1,000 foot, the snow line would be there and it'd just be raining below there. And like in Mount Airy, but the snow line hit right there halfway up to the house there. Well, like I said, I met some folks, and this one guy in particular kept saying he would always talk about that Dogwood Mountain would open up and he would see craft fly in and out of the mountain. Now, this is years ago. This was in 2002, 2001, 2, 3 area. That's that sort of era. So nobody's talking about UFOs. Crazy if you do. But my buddy Nelson would say this stuff. Everybody just assumed that he was always on drugs, Well, I don't know that he was, because one night we were hanging out and I was with this same guy. And me and my girlfriend and another couple were standing there outside his place. And he lives on what's known as Bear Trail. And Bear Trail is the first road that runs below like our house was up on top of the mountain. You could see the road from the house. Like there's a big straight stretch that runs, and you could see the house up there. But I never knew I never knew anybody, that lived down there for a long time. And then I met these folks and I started hearing this stuff. And sure enough, one night we're standing there and outside the driveway, and you could hear it before it got there. But it wasn't because it was making any noise. It was because it was going so fast and it was hugging the road. Like this road got called Bear Trail. It was like it was right, maybe like a hovercraft on top of a road, But you could hear the wind coming off of it. But, it wasn't making any noise with propulsion. There was no noise engine, no, nothing like that. It was completely silent. And like this red orb about the size of a Volkswagen Bug. That's what I've always said. And no other lights, just a solid red orb. And it was shit getting it, man. Like I say, you could hear the wind coming up with it as it whirred up Bear Trail and went past us, held by 90, and kept going it around the curve and kept on getting it. And I was like, I said, I told you. I was like, well, I started laughing, but maybe he's right about that. Funny enough, the Blue Ridge Parkway, which runs right there in this same area, it wasn't just built for a scenery place to ride motorcycles on. It's actually built for military use. And if we're ever attacked on the eastern seaboard, the Blue Ridge Parkway will be used for artillery. That's where they'll put the big guns at.
Really? I had no idea about that. I was just on property. I was just on part of the Blue Ridge Parkway cutting across to go to the Outer Banks we were going to Lynchburg to stay, and it took us on this road. I was like, this is crazy. Like, it's beautiful, but it's like it is. It's Valley. Yeah, it's cool, and it's so. Okay, so your friend Nelson, what was he when he said the mountain opened up? Did he really mean the mountain opened up, or was
I think so?
Or
he meant literally,
or was he seeing those balls of light, because those
Well, now
balls.
that's true too. Yeah, he never differentiated until that night, and I don't know. I never asked him afterwards.
Well, because they have video like on Skinwalker Ranch of
Yeah,
those balls of light
going into the mesa.
and then coming out.
I know, ain't it crazy?
And so I wonder if that's. I
It could have
wonder.
been, man. He never said for sure, but he did make out like that was the type of thing he had seen before. He'd seen that red ball before. But the way he described, he meant like I thought he meant like
Like it just
like
opened. Like,
structured craft coming in and out,
yeah.
and like a
Well,
door opening up on the mountain, which could be too, because it's all federal. Every bit of that's federal. The Blue Ridge Parkway. I mean, not necessarily the mountain my parents lived on, but I mean it wasn't developed either. Who knows what infrastructure's underneath the ground? I
that's
think
crazy.
that's where all our monies went to, probably underneath the ground. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, David, I'm gonna say, God, an hour is like flown by. I can't even
Yeah,
believe it.
man.
I can't even
Appreciate you
believe.
having me on.
Uh, Look, it's my pleasure. I really enjoy getting on here and having conversations that just kind of go from one thing to the next. And I hope the people listening love the extra added like flair to the story, because it really paints a full picture.
I hope so
And
too. I hope
yeah,
people enjoy this episode. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no, and
'Cause
I mean, you've had every cool thing. I mean, the mountain lion thing is. I wasn't even expecting that. That's
yeah.
a really cool. Well, it's cool to hear
Well,
it.
that's
I
like I
don't think.
told Tony Merkel in a letter I sent them a long time. Like I said, me and Tony don't know each other, but we know each other. You know, I said, I've seen a lot of stuff of real wildlife over the years that are real wildlife. I think encounters just really high strangeness associated with wildlife that is real, though,
Yeah,
that we know exists out here, not anything cryptid. So, that may not necessarily have high strangeness nature to it, but um, I did have something happen. You know what a boomer is? You know what a big
no,
like a
no.
big red squirrel?
Okay, yeah. I sort of.
Okay,
I'm
like a
vaguely.
fox squirrel,
Yeah,
or
yeah. Okay.
okay. So I seen one down here one day, and as a matter of fact, it's a weird synchronicity. It was the last time I ever had to go to jail. I just got released, and I was waiting. I had to sit in the woods for a little while to wait for somebody to come get home from work to get somewhere, if that makes any sense. It's a process to do things. So while I'm sitting at this spot in the woods, I had an encounter with a buck in when they're in the velvet, when
Hmm.
their antlers are velvet.
Yeah.
And I had never seen one in the velvet before. Interestingly enough, uh, I just had never had seen one. A big old buck, huge, uh, big, muscled up, man. And he had two does with him, and one of them does snorted because they knew I was sitting there, but I was sitting real still. And he couldn't see me, and I just sat real still. He was pawing the ground and snorting, act like he was going to come across. They were coming to get a drink of water. There's a little spring right there. And I thought he was going to come after me. And I finally flipped a fly or something out of my face, and he bolted, took off too. Well, after that, I guess they made enough racket that I started hearing this squirrel bark and raise Cane up in the tree, and just a tree was like just two trees down right beside me. This thing comes climbing down the trunk, and he had four arms, Jack. I'm not even lying. I was like, what the hell? And he was raising Cane, and I've never seen a squirrel both brown, tawny color like a mountain lion, brown, and also that size. And then somebody asked me, was it a nutria? And I'm like, no, it was a squirrel. I mean, I know a squirrel. It had, yeah, it's like a huge fox squirrel though. And so down here they talk about these things called boomers, and they'll like they'll emasculate the younger squirrels.
Really?
Yeah, that's the story I used to hear, the folklore about what's called a boomer. So I don't know, but
Holy smokes!
we got
Oh
a
boy.
we got a town right close to where I live called Boomer. It's in Wilkes County.
Do the older men emasculate the younger?
No, I don't go around older men. I'm about as old a man as I like to go around. But I will say this, and this is the last thing I'll tell you about. But my neighbor, when I moved in here, this interestingly enough, I only have 7 neighbors. There's 8 of us here, and every one of them is very weird. I had a synchronistic relationship with, either by a name, um, like in their surname, their last name, or somebody kin to them that I knew well, or Bigfoot. And one of them happened to be that he had an encounter in Boomer, North Carolina with Bigfoot in 1974. And he says that the one he saw was carrying a lady in white, in a white dress, and she had long hair. He was about 12 years old when this happened. He had a guy come from Athens, Georgia, and regressed him and took his story, and yeah, I left him. I can't remember his name. The researcher, he'd wrote a book about non-kill Bigfoot. I don't know. He's
Really?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. And
it's
came and took my neighbor's story. And this is right before I moved in, but you know, it was just weird that everybody here that now we're all pretty tight, close.
wow. That's a
Yeah,
that's a so he remembered it as a kid, and then somebody
yeah.
came and
And he says
regressed him to get more
he remembered
details.
it before then, but I guess he remembered it happening prior to the regression. But he also hypnotized him while he was here, though, too. I ain't letting nobody hypnotize me. I remember everything. I don't need.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. Man, that would be interesting. I wonder if anybody's
Yeah, so
read that book.
I've got a little interview with him that I did. I'm gonna put on my channel. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Let's tell everybody about you. You have a YouTube channel. You're going to fire back up here a little bit.
yeah, and it's gonna be called Wilkes County Wildman. So because I am Wilkes County Wildman. And just it won't always be about Bigfoot. We're racing Bigfoot because the NASCAR thing's such a big deal here. We got our race back now, and everybody's fighting. North Wilkesboro lost their race for a long time, and I guess the year I graduated high school, '96, and they got it back a couple of years ago. This NASCAR stock car. That's where Junior Johnson's from. Yeah.
Well, we'll put a link in the
Yeah,
description.
it'll be at David DeMarcy, DavidDemarcey at YouTube. So,
All right, we'll put a link in there
Shane,
because
thanks for having me, bud.
well, I'm hoping a bunch of people from the area tune in to this and just hear what because you've described a lot of places. I think people from the area,
people
obviously,
from the area will dig it. Yeah,
they will dig it, and then hopefully they'll go check out your channel, and you'll keep following up and putting up content.
Yeah. There's 4 lives that I did last fall, and then my father passed, and I just fell out of it, And just seeing Stacy Brown's success, it's first of the year with his, and I was like, man, you need to get back to doing it, and because it is just putting the content out.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to keep doing it.
Well, there was one time at one point this year, Stacy was giving me crap that he didn't think
I remember
he was that he wasn't going to catch us. And now he's like, "Are you going to catch me?" he went right past. But it's we both
I can't wait to see more of the Tate. What's the name? What's the name of it? How's it?
Tate's Hell.
Yeah, Tate's Hell. Yeah, I've been to Tate's Hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl. Yeah, Dave's girl. Her last name was Tate. Sure enough, it was Tate's Hell, man. Mercy.
Well, David, I appreciate you reaching out, and
yeah, man.
And
love what you do here. Y'all do a good service for a lot of. I mean, you give everybody their due and let them talk. Let them talk, man. And like I was telling you earlier, not everybody's on the same. Not everybody's where everybody else is, and we could all take ourselves a lot less seriously.
Yeah,
and ease up in the comments and give everybody a chance.
Yes, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this as much as I did. And like I said, I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to following what you put up on your channel. So if you don't get anything up, you're going to hear from me. I'm going to say, come on.
Well,
man.
I got to put something up about the Mothman prophecies, because that's pretty intense, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'll be curious to go check out David's channel. And let's wait for what he puts up about because I know what he's been talking about, so I can't wait for him to.
Y'all got to come check it out.
Got to go check it out. So thanks again, David. I appreciate it.
Thanks for teeing me up, man. Yeah, for real. Have a good one, buddy.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what's hiding